Good morning. Today is the 27th day of Iyar and the 18th of May. We are up to the fifth reading of Parashat Bemidbar. And in the fifth reading, we begin to count the Levites. We said in the beginning of the week that the Levites were counted separately. One of the reasons being that they were meant to survive the time in the wilderness, the 38 years that they were coming up on, and they wouldn't be able, most of the Jewish people wouldn't be able to enter the land of Israel, but the Levites would. So the Levites created the continuity between the land of Israel and the time in the wilderness, or the giving of the Torah. This continuity is very important because, as we'll see, it's not so simple. We have these two extremes in the Torah. One is talking about the Torah being given in the wilderness, and the other one coming and saying that the Torah needs to be kept in the land of Israel. Now, those are completely different propositions, because it's sort of like if I would ask historically, if Torah, let's say we thought of Torah as developing, let's say we thought of it that way. Certainly the oral tradition is something that develops, and we'll say something more about that later. But even if we would think about the tradition of Torah, the Torah itself is something that developed, and we would say the Torah developed in the wilderness. It was given in the wilderness. It was first enacted in the wilderness. It was first used in the wilderness. What does that exactly say about its content? We might think that the content is suited for a non-civilized society, meaning that a society that does not deal with the regular topics that we deal with. In other words, the Torah didn't have to deal with actual disputes over land. It didn't really have to deal with coping with warring nations around you that don't want you. The Torah didn't come from the bottom up. It came from above to below. But that's exactly the point of the Torah being given in the wilderness. That's exactly the point that it's trying to make. That the Torah is not a human development. If it would have been a human development, it would have developed out of life itself. In other words, we would expect the Torah to tell us that it had been developed by the patriarchs when they already were in the land of Israel. That would be the normal course of action. And that would be a normal story that a people would tell itself. In other words, if I was a historian reading the Torah and looking at the story that it's telling me, I would say this doesn't make any sense, because here you were already in a state of being in your land. They weren't the dominating force, they weren't the dominant force, they weren't the strongest, but they were already setting up a civilization, a people. And so you would have expected the Torah to come and tell me, all of us, that its origin is in the relationship between the patriarchs and God. And that the patriarchs were the ones who developed all these commandments, all these rules, and then they handed that down to their children, and that would have been the normal course of events. But the Torah tells a different story, and it says, no, we begin in the wilderness. The Torah is not from this world. It didn't develop out of the natural course of human history. It didn't develop out of the natural course of human actions and life. It is something that comes from above, and therefore the place to give it is in the wilderness, where you don't deal with the natural course of events. You're not in your natural state. You're actually in a very detached state, detached from all the needs of life. Not only that, the Torah has already told us that they didn't eat in the wilderness. They did not eat food of regular nature. They didn't have fields, and they didn't sow them and reap them and make bread. Instead, even their sustenance was otherworldly. It came from somewhere else. Completely something different. Not at all what you would expect. But the goal of the Torah is to bring the people into the land. It's coming and saying, even though I am an ideal concept, I'm not the product of human development. I am something that comes from outside of human life. My goal is to inform normal human life, which happens to a normal people in a normal land. And so the general push of the entire story from the time that they came out of Egypt is that they're going to the land of Israel. And why are they going to the land of Israel? Because they want to take the Torah and apply it to life in the land. And that becomes the coming down of the Torah and making it into something mundane, realistic, something that can actually govern human life. The problem is that if everyone who was in the desert passes away and they don't make it into the land of Israel, then where's the continuity? How is this the same Torah? Maybe the people who went into the land of Israel, they maybe most of them probably weren't even alive at the time of the giving of the Torah. So how do you have this continuity? So it turns out that the Levites, whose numbers we are now counting in today's reading, they create the link between the wilderness, between the giving of the Torah and the Torah entering the land of Israel. That's why we said in the beginning of the week that they can't perish in the wilderness. They have to actually enter because they are the bearers of the torch, as one would say. They're the ones who are creating the continuity. At the very end of today's reading, we hear about their numbers. So how many were there altogether? The Torah says in chapter 3, verse 39, this is the last verse of our reading today, all the counted Levites that Moses and Aaron counted by God, according to their families, all the males from a month old were 22,000. Now this number 22,000 is phenomenal. It's like a code. It's like right away, the moment you see it, you have to recall, where's this number from? What is this 22,000? It says that later on we'll see this in two parshas. We'll see this. Rivevot alfei Yisrael. The tens of thousands of the thousands of Israel is the description that the Torah gives for the number. It's a strange number. We don't exactly know where it came from. But it's coming and saying that this number is associated with the Torah. 22,000 is a number that later we're going to see is associated with the Torah, not with the number of Levites. But here it's associated with the Levites. Now let's see what happens here. In the story of the Torah, first the Torah was given, then the Jewish people were ordered around the tabernacle in their encampments, and the Levites in the center. Every year, what do? We read first, in fact, every year, we read the Parsha of Bemidbar, this Parsha that we just read now, that describes the encampment before Shavuot, before the giving of the Torah. So the order is reversed. When it happened, first the Torah was given, then the people were ordered according to the way that they saw the camps of angels at the giving of the Torah. So first the giving of the Torah, then the camps. Every year, we first read about the encampment, and then we receive the Torah. Why do we do this? To create the same link, that the Levites represent the link of the Torah coming from the wilderness into the Torah that's now coming down into the world. And that's actually exactly what we reenact every year with our preparation for Shavuot, for the commemoration of the giving of the Torah. Basically what we're doing is, we're saying, here we are, the 22,000 Levites, we are the encampment that's waiting to receive the Torah anew from above. And so every year we're saying, we can't go back to the state of the wilderness. We're already a camp. We are already people in the world with the Torah. But nonetheless, even though we have the camp already, we're now ready to receive a new light of the Torah that will be on Friday next week. So basically this parsha, with everything that it discusses about the creation of the camp, we use it today as a way to say we're already in the world with the Torah, and look at us, Hashem, we are already in our encampments, in our communities, in who we are and how we've already taken the Torah in over 3,300 years. We've brought it down and made it into the normalizing and the unifying aspect of our people. We're now ready to receive the Torah anew, meaning to receive a new light of the Torah, and that is why always this parsha is read before Shavuot. We'll explore a little bit more when we come in two parshas to this number again. We'll explain a little bit more about what it means, but for now, we'll